for more Season 2 Hazbin Hotel, cause I'm clearly a glutton for punishment, and boy were these episodes just a field day of confusion and unholy anger towards a certain princess, who also seems to be a glutton for punishment. But like I said in my last video, I'm just gonna give my first impressions and a few notes on things I noticed for episode 3 and 4, so spoilers, obviously, but be warned, I'm a bit more frustrated this time around, mainly cause of non-stop fan service that makes me feel nothing due to not being earned. And I'm not saying we need to be spoon-fed information on these characters and moments, but we need to see the development of these relationships between the characters on screen. You have to show the change so the viewers can get more attached to the ideas or the characters' stories. And some characters I just absolutely feel nothing for. And I'm not saying we need to fully dedicate episodes to a character's entire life and afterlife, but just a few more moments of them interacting more so I can actually feel something. And funny enough, there is actually a video I think y'all would like that kind of explains why stuff like this is important in the context of filler, so link in the description if you're curious. But anyway, episode 3. So we start back where we left everything from the last episode of Emily telling Charlie that redemption is possible and Sir P is in heaven and that heaven is going into lockdown. And after Charlie's freak out, she runs off to tell everyone the news, which I would too if my theory was proven correct, but Vaggie gets a hold of her and makes very good concerns, like why is heaven going on lockdown? But when Charlie sends a message to Vox Tech, Vaggie again makes good points on why should they do an interview now, or why have someone specifically from Vox Tech come to the hotel when all they've done so far is bash the hotel and Charlie. I'm just really curious why Charlie didn't use Alastor to interview with, or use his powers more specifically to tell all of hell, or you know, her dad's many connections. And for that matter, why hasn't she told her dad in both episodes? Charlie is ignoring the one person she should be telling who could actually help her, yet she just lies to Vaggie and sends a message to Vox Tech, to which Vox ends up sending himself and Velvet to the hotel. And we do get a B-plot of Cherry, I guess, coming to terms that Sir P is alive and in heaven, but I genuinely did not care about it at all, since I don't particularly care about Cherry, but looking more into Sir P's past was fun, and some of the world building lore as well. And oh look, Baxter's back, which crazy how Charlie also didn't think to tell him as well, but I guess it's cause him working for Vox is meant to be a secret in some way. But yeah, Piss, a love song, was okay, kinda came out of nowhere, honestly, like zero build up since Sir P starts it off, but I did enjoy the animation. However, again, the fan service is everywhere. Cherry Snake to me has always just felt so forced, especially if we ignore like half the pilot. Their relationship was never really touched on until this episode, and it's obviously just a lot more telling than showing, which I shouldn't be surprised, as that's pretty much constant in the show. Also, Husk this episode was so weird to me. Like, not out of character weird, but like weirdly overly nice. I know it's been a year and 1 month for these characters, but I don't know. But anyway, even though I don't care for Cherry Snake, the song was overall good. Kind of a bop, if you will. But back to the main story. Vox shows up and walks circles around Charlie, confusing her and making her say stuff that sounds bad. However, Charlie decides to backpedal what she said to Vaggie, and I guess Vox in this case, and just straight up tells Vox that redemption is possible, and Vox gets excited and asks to see Sir P, which Charlie can't. And Vox makes a point on how will she be able to prove that redemption is possible, so Charlie makes the effort to redeem someone in front of Vox. Obviously, this backfires again, since they have no idea how Serpentious was redeemed in the first place, and thankfully we have Vaggie coming in clutch, gets on Charlie for letting Vox into the hotel, and of course Charlie just makes excuses that Vox is a reporter, like, woman, shut up. And then finally Angel gets on Charlie's case, reminding her that they're overlords and work for Val, and that they're bad news. And Charlie, with all the optimism in the world, truly believes Vox is just going to make a special about the hotel. Woman, you are the definition of insanity. This is what, the third time that they have done something to you, and the outcome from them is the same. Stop it. Stop! but Charlie pretty much begs Angel to be the person they redeem on camera. Angel doesn't really want to, which for obvious reasons, but Husk encourages him to try, and we get Speed Run Redemption, which, it's an okay song, but the animation is really good. It also kind of reminds me of Inside of Every Demon is a Rainbow, but during the song, Charlie fixates on Sir P and basically gets the idea to recreate something similar for Angel Dust where he has to self-sacrifice. Angel doesn't want to do it and makes a point that he isn't Sir Pench's. However, Vox cuts the brakes to the train that has an angelic spear tied to it, racing to stab Husk, who is literally tied to the tracks, which is so silly to me when he mentions that because in the next episode, we see that Husk can turn into cards. So, excuse me, sir? What do you mean you can't get out of the situation that you're in? Do something! And for some weird reason, Angel comes back out onto the balcony saying, I told you, Charlie, I'm done. But like, no one called you. But Angel does jump into action to save Husk, kinda, and Vaggie gets them out of the way. Charlie apologizes, and Angel makes the point that, yeah, while she never means to hurt them, her sorries are hard to take seriously due to the amount of times she's done this. Also, Husk, for some reason, has a meltdown over Angel saving him, and it honestly comes out of nowhere. Like, I get being upset at Angel just standing in front of the train like he's gonna block it, but still, the overall argument was just weird. Anyway, Vox then makes the point that Angel didn't get redeemed, and finally, Charlie gets what worked for Sir P isn't gonna work for Angel, and they need to work on his own personal sin, to which Angel gets really uncomfortable with, and Charlie begs to know what it is so they can redeem him right then and there, to which Vox kind of rudely says Angel killed his father, and Charlie gets upset, and then Vox again kind of makes a point that she did ask, and he answered, like, yeah, he shouldn't have answered, but we know Charlie would have kept asking Angel just so she could have her proof. But at the end of it, she does tell Vox to leave, and he asks if she thinks he could be redeemed, and she says she believes anyone can, and I don't have a problem with her thinking that. I just really wish that like her line of dialogue was a little different. I really wish she had said something like, anyone can be redeemed, but only if they want it. Like, in some weird way show that Charlie's viewpoint has changed a little bit. But yeah, and at the end of the episode, we see the sinners leave the hotel due to Vox's special on the hotel, which I think is so silly for these people to leave when they literally spend actual time with Charlie, so I don't understand why they're leaving, but it shows that Cherry has now moved into the hotel. Okay, episode 4. So we start off with it being the next day, and finally it feels like it's the next day since Charlie is getting ready to go on live television to clear the air about Vox's special. Vaggie asks her to stay since Katie is just gonna do the same thing the Vees did, but Charlie goes anyway and takes Nifty with her. Okay, worst person to take, especially since she's slightly famous for killing Adam, but okay. We then cut over to Alastor still not healed from his fight with Adam, which makes sense, he was cut with angelic steel, so it probably will never get better. We then cut to the common room, and Angel Dust is reading text from Valentino, and is it kind of weird that they're not as awful as his season 1 text messages? Anyway, Lucifer and Alastor have a pissing contest that makes Alastor quit, which is a really weird thing for him to just do, because when he runs off to tell Rosie he quit the hotel, he acts like he's been involved in everything, and it's like, not on screen you haven't. Half the time you're not even in the episodes. Anyway, we go back to the news station, and okay, I can't help but notice a lot of the pilot is kind of being reused, I guess, and I know the pilot is 50% canon, but I swear, it feels like they're taking parts of the pilot and reusing those scenes. Like, the news scene just feels like a longer version of the pilot's news scene. But Charlie again gets talked circles around, and Katie says the special was a week ago, but I'm pretty sure Velvet said it was yesterday. I know Katie lies a lot, but come on now. And Charlie doesn't even correct her, but at least Charlie caught on early what was going on, yet she still stays like, girl, just leave. Anyway, we move on to Alastor, and he tells Rosie he quit the hotel, and we learn she owns his soul and was the one to make him the most powerful sinner in hell, as Alastor was able to contact her when he was alive. And the conversation is fine overall, though a little out of nowhere for both of them, and honestly, it just feels like the show is stumbling through contrived plot points, since there's talk that Rosie is actually Lilith in disguise, and has some reason for Alastor to watch over Charlie. Low-key, if this theory is true, I bet Charlie's gonna be like, why did you do this? And Rose/Lilith is gonna be like, oh, well, cause Eve, and cause I wanted you to come into your own voice type spiel. Anyway though, Rosie tells Alastor she made him powerful, but not enough to take on angels. We then get Al's backstory, and the Honeycast and Viv already spoiled that, so Yeah, Alastor then gets upset that the deal he has with Rosie isn't broken yet and that it's taking too long, and we move on to Don't You Forget, which is a pretty good song, and I like that they brought back the Mary Poppins outfits from Viv's sketch days, though I am curious why Rosie won't fix Alastor's staff, or why she made him disappear around the same time as Lilith, because other than him being at the hotel for a year, what exactly has he been doing for her for the past 7 years? But she tells him he has to deal with everything alone, and he surprisingly gets a fast idea after thinking in the park, and again we get a hint that Alastor is attached to Lilith in some way due to her and the whole family's statue being behind him. We then go back to Charlie explaining that now that Sir P is redeemed, heaven might now be open to stopping the exterminations. Katie again runs circles around Charlie and again gets her to say something she doesn't mean, causing more people to hate her and distrust her hotel. And unfortunately, her last effort to fix all of this is to have Nifty talk about the hotel, and we get Nifty's song. Yay! And honestly, it's both hilarious, a bop, and kind of cringe, but like in a good way. It was so fun, and it was fun to see what goes on in Nifty's mind. Obviously, Charlie has no idea what Nifty said in the last half and pretty much crashes out, which is valid. And while that's happening, Alastor has Vox come out to talk/fight. Also, Vox calling Alastor a twink. Bro, don't throw stones at glass houses. Anyway, the Vees get involved and they all fight, and the animation is ramped up. Vox's style of fighting is probably my favorite. Val and Velvet, and it's fine, but due to Alastor being weakened, isn't able to fight all that well and gets backed into a corner and makes a deal with Vox to finally join his team. Also, Nifty and Husk are there, because Nifty saw on the news Vox and Al were fighting and interrupted Husk, possibly apologizing to Angel. Anyway, Vox accepts the deal to not touch Charlie and spare Nifty and Husk, which I cannot tell if Alastor actually likes Husk or Nifty or not, but Vox goes on a whole humiliate Alastor tour, and while I know Vox doesn't know that Alastor already sold his soul to someone else, it was still a crazy thing to accept, though I'm curious how this is going to work since Alastor also owns Husk and Nifty souls. They really need to bring up contracts and how they work, because it's really confusing on how this is all supposed to work. Anyway, a bunch of fan service scenes later, and a scene I'm just gonna ignore, we get to the final outcome of the episode, aka Vox and Alastor's backstory, and how they were air quote friends, and how clearly Vox had a thing for Alastor, but when asked to join forces, Alastor projects so hard he breaks Vox completely. And yes, Alastor is projecting, because he didn't get to the top alone. Sure, he was alone through the things that he did, but he still got help in a sense. Like, all of his power comes from Rosie. He did not make anything for himself like Vox has. But also, Vox's crash out wasn't sad enough, to be honest. Like, dude got rejected and made it everyone's problem. Like, again, this man was a cult leader and probably did some awful shit, yet they want me to be like, aw, poor guy. No. Anyway, we move on to Alastor and Vox saying the same stuff, and we get 2 reprises of Don't You Forget and Stayed Gone, with, I think, a little of When We Get Up There splashed in, so like 3 reprises, and it's fine. There's only like one part of the song that I actually like, and it has to do with the music, but we end the episode with an obvious joke from Val, and boom, episode done. What a wild ride of an episode. Final thoughts. Man, do I wish the pacing of this show was better and we focused on the hotel a little bit more. Like, don't get me wrong, I liked the stuff we got, but there's so many strong points that they just ignore or don't explore. There was also a lot of stop frame scenes, and by that I mean a scene ended but the image stayed still, which is kind of crazy to see with how on point the animation has been, and it happened in the last 2 episodes as well. Anyway though, Vox is still the overall highlight, though that might be because we're getting a lot more of him than ever before compared to the other characters, which isn't a bad thing, but it does show that we could have had with the main cast, and unfortunately the songs were just okay in these episodes. Nothing really stood out enough for me, other than maybe Nifty's song, and Rosie's song was just a little borderline into a territory I'm not comfortable with. Because if you think about the subtext of their relationship, it gets problematic fast, even with the theory of Rose being Lilith, but yeah, but I think my overall hang-up is Charlie not listening. Time and time again, Angel has warned her and Vaggie has made very good points, yet she doesn't listen. And I get that she's the sin of Pride's daughter, so that might be a part of her, which I still don't think so, since Lucifer technically didn't do anything prideful. Exactly. But anyway, that doesn't really excuse how frustrating she's been, and this isn't the first time either, yet she keeps doing the same thing, expecting a different outcome. I seriously hope this is a character character arc for her, because while she may have good intentions, it's the consequences of those intentions that make everything worse, or even mean all that much when she keeps doing it. Anyway though, the jokes this time around were pretty good. I laughed a bit more till the end for obvious reasons, cause gross, dude. Other than the fight scene between the Vees and Alastor and Nifty Song, these 2 episodes were meh to me. Like, not absolutely awful, just there, I guess. Like, I'm already feeling like I'm forgetting so much after watching them, but that's all I got. See y'all next Wednesday. Bye!